They write this: France's Pfizer amendment could turn mRNA critics into criminals
and punish those critics with 3 years in prison and a fine. Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend. This is where we like to call out the lies, hypocrisy, and corruption of tyrants and Satan pharmaceutical companies, shine the light of awareness on woke absurdities, and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters. Now, I think there's nothing more important than freedom, and we need to have free speech or else we don't have freedom no matter what they tell us to think. Things that are done for our protection. Okay, protect me. Where'd all my freedoms go? I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite as Orwellian as this bill proposed as a new law in France that punishes critics of mRNA life-saving technology with prison, 3 years in prison and a 45,000 euro fine. I am not a fan of anything Orwellian. That's why I'm on a mission to help make 1984 fiction again. It sucks as a non-fictional reality. Couldn't be worse. But it's a beautiful story if it's fiction. By the way, if you'd like to get your hands on a Make 1984 Fiction Again shirt, we've got a all-new upgrade to the merch line. You can check it out at awakenwithjp.com. Also linked in the description below. Now in a minute, we're going to take a look at the video clip from the Highwire Del Big Tree. Awesome human, by the way. But first, here is a concerned citizen posting a quick summary on Twitter about what the heck is going on in France. Well, the First Lady's a man. Let's distract you with that story while we kind of pass this bill that's going to throw all y'all non-compliant people that exercise the sovereignty of free speech in prison. Concerned citizen, that's actually a good name. I bet he is a concerned citizen. In France, a new law called the Pfizer Amendment is seeking to criminalize critics of Pfizer mRNA technology with up to 1 year in prison or a $15,000 fine. But wait, it gets more. This shows just how much power the corporation, lobbyists, and pharmaceutical industry complex has. Fact check true. It also suggests this technology is sought to be used on a widespread basis in the not too distant future, possibly mandated. Fact check already true, especially in France. See people dying suddenly? Do not criticize, do not pass go straight to jail. A good way to end it. But the plot certainly does thicken because this, you could be punished with up to 1 year in prison or a $15,000 fine. It actually upgrades to 3 years in prison and a $45,000 fine. But let's take a look at the original clip from Del Big Tree's Highwire show. I love Del. He's a friend. He lives not too far from me. I've been on his show, and I very much admire his courage, his passion, and his intelligence as a crusader to help dispel deception with the light of truth and freedom.
And one of them, really one of the top stories, is this legal issue, a law that's going through the National Assembly and the Senate in France. This is the reporting from the Brownstone Institute.
Just for ignorant Americans like myself, they're like, here's France. I'm like, damn, I thought it was west of America.
And they write this: France's Pfizer amendment could turn mRNA critics into criminals. There's a lot of people talking about this online, and a lot of reporting on it, some good.
So the criminals have figured out a way to make innocent citizens the criminals. It's Orwellian, friends.
Some not so good. So let's just go right to the bill. Okay. And this is a translated bill, so some of the stuff may be lost in translation, but we're going to read right from it here and then break it down. Provocation to abandon, this Article 4, provocation to abandon or abstain from following therapeutic or prophylactic medical treatment is punishable by 1 year of imprisonment and a fine of 15,000 euros.
So provocation to abandon or abstain from the following therapeutic. So basically, if you're saying anything that is not supportive of the therapy in question, then you're guilty of this. There's a lot you can't say then.
When this abandonment or abstination is presented as beneficial for health of the persons targeted, when it is, in the state of medical knowledge, clearly likely to result in serious consequences for their physical or psychological health, taking into account the pathology from which they suffer. Now it goes on, and there's one more line here. It says, when the provocation provided for in the first two paragraphs has been followed by effects, meaning someone's actually had a problem because they followed that, the penalties are increased to 3 years of imprisonment and a fine of 45,000 euros. And then it goes,
say what you need to say about this, and someone follows your advice and then they suffer from a life-altering condition like living suddenly. They have been affected by your words, and now you're upgraded to 3 years in prison for you and a 45,000 euro fine.
goes on to talk about when these offenses are committed through the written or audiovisual press. So there's specific provisions that
So you could probably do sign language.
also happen. So they're actually talking about the press in here. They're talking about the media, written media, audiovisual media. So let's break this down a little bit.
Let me just get this. Let me make sense of this for a second. We are an audiovisual press. We, for instance, have definitely pointed out the dangers of the COVID vaccine.
False. YouTube.
As I've pointed out, we were right. We were right, small or rare, whatever it is, we were right that there's an increased risk of harm from the vaccine. What this law is saying is that if me or you or people like us put out information saying that we believe this prophylactic product called the COVID-19 vaccine is dangerous, or whatever vaccine comes during the next pandemic, that if we make those statements, I would guess that perhaps I could fly into France and be immediately arrested. And now I'm only going to get 1 year. I'm going to get 1 year of arrest and I think a $15,000 fine as long as it didn't affect anybody. But if they can find somebody that watched the high wire and say that they ended up, let's say, dying from COVID or getting really sick or something like that, that is now my fault and that now I should go to jail for 3 years and pay a $45,000 fine. Do I have that straight? Is that
the idea? That the few who try to run the world are trying to control the media and narrative. That's not too far-fetched of an idea. And you look at all the independent media. The High Wire is a very strong, powerful source of independent media. They have big reach and they are very dedicated to their work. Now, someone like Del Bigtree, he would never comply with what they're trying to do. But others, they would be tempted to censor themselves. Why? Because it's under the threat of tyranny. That thing you were going to report on, you can do that, but just so you know, 3 years in prison, 45,000 euro fine. Now that's going to cause a lot of self-censorship, and that's going to cause the psychopaths in control to control independent media that they don't directly have control over. How? Because they're controlling the independent media through tyranny, through threats, through intimidation, and thus they would have control over independent media. And thus they would be controlling their narrative that is their little precious.
prophylactics, right? Like remdesivir, a treatment. If someone doesn't take remdesivir and dies of COVID, doesn't matter how many people died of remdesivir, if the medical establishment believes remdesivir works, then I'm going to jail. Overstating that?
There's a lot of ins and outs on this bill, and it's actually doublespeak because it says from a pathology from what.
I mean, first off, the double speak is criminals. This is the Pfizer amendment. Pfizer has paid the largest criminal fine in U.S. history. That makes them a criminal organization. So it's literally criminals getting innocent people to be labeled the criminals. Now, that's not just double speak, that's double action.
Which they suffer. So medical treatment, someone's suffering from medical treatment, but they also say prophylactic. So prophylactic is intended to prevent disease. So they get it on both ends. Right. But they also, I mean, to your point, SSRIs for depression, chemotherapy for cancer, statins for high cholesterol. Where does this end? If I'm a pharmaceutical company, I'm loving this bill. Now, let's stop right here. A lot of people are saying this is law now. It's happening. It's not law. It's passed the National Assembly. It's going to the Senate. There could be rewrites. The Senate may not pass it. They didn't pass it the first time. It had to go through a rewrite. And it has to do all that before it becomes law. So this is kind of a preemptive putting it on people's radar. And you really want to pay attention to this.
Man, I love that this is on people's radar. And just because the facts matter, as Jeffrey Jackson, who's with it, Highwire, pointed out, this bill, it's not passed into law. But the fact that this bill even could be proposed into law, that is a concern we need to be aware of. And there's no guarantee that it will be passed into law in France, and there's no guarantee that it won't be. And by the way, if you just put on your tinfoil hat for a second, those who run France, hello, World Economic Forum. You like Macron, don't you? You like Trudeau, don't you? You like Biden, don't you? If you consider the unelected ones that we suspect kind of run places like France are also trying to run everywhere else. So this is perhaps a movie trailer of what they'll be trying to do everywhere else. And that absolutely doesn't surprise me. I think people who subscribe to this weird doctrine of free thinking, we've been seeing this kind of thing and therefore expecting more of it. But nonetheless, this is something something people need to be made aware of. Trying to throw innocent people in prison for speaking out against something that they have genuine concerns about and even evidence to back up their concerns, throwing them in prison for doing speech. In America, we have free speech. So doing free speech, you go to prison for that. Why? Because we need to protect the guilty from the innocent. We can do better, world. Appreciate you watching this video. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. I look forward to seeing you on our next one. But first, a special message definitely not brought to you by the Pfizer Amendment. Hi. I don't know about you, but I've been having trouble sleeping. It takes me forever to fall asleep, then I'll wake up frequently at night, and in the morning I always have really low energy. It sucks. And maybe like you, I have tried everything under the sun to try to get better sleep. I stayed up late watching TV, I scroll Instagram right before bed, I check my texts, my emails while I'm in bed, I turn on all the indoor lighting at night, I drink coffee, I've gotten into late night political arguments with who are now former friends. I've even tried holding weighted elephants and none of it worked. Some of that even made my sleep problems worse. But then I started taking Awaken CBD sleep gummies. Now at first, I thought they would make my sleep problems worse because they have the word awaken in them. But I started taking them thinking they might help my erectile dysfunction, and they didn't. But they did help me fall asleep faster, sleep deeper, and wake up in the morning with more energy. I was actually shocked at the profound effects my sleep had, because quite honestly at Awaken CBD, we don't really know what we're doing, but we accidentally hit a home run on this one. Do not take sleep gummies if you're driving a car, flying in an airplane, wingsuit jumping, bullfighting, performing open heart surgery, doing a home invasion, meeting a Tinder date, or performing advanced level mathematics. Upgrade your sleep, one of nature's most profound medicines, with Awaken CBD sleep gummies. Just go to awakencbd.com and grab yours today.